So these were factors that contributed to a huge surge in Quebec, in Canadian tourism, but we were really focused on the Quebec factor. So in North Conway, where we have Settlers Green and many other factory outlets, 80% of the dollars coming through the registers for our factory outlets and restaurants in that weekend, in that year, were from Quebec. So it was absolutely huge. It was a tidal wave. Since then, their dollar has gotten pretty weak, and other things have changed. So now we have to work a little harder for it. But the hikers are, they come regardless. And some people say, well, hikers don't spend any money. It's like, well, they do. They spend maybe a little less than other tourists, but and they still do some shopping, but they don't come to shop. So so a year ago, actually last spring, I worked on a survey, and for Victoria Day weekend, Katharine Harrington, who used to be part of the faculty here, she and I worked the trailhead at Lafayette and also Pinkham Notch, and we found out many Quebecois come to Tuckerman's Ravine to ski and to snowboard year after year after year. It becomes a family tradition. Some families there had 3 generations of people going up to ski and hike, and it was pretty exciting. We had somebody from the Canadian Consul there working with us. We had New Hampshire Fish and Game, because they're promoting the Hike Safe card, which we have translated, Catherine has translated into French, and that's so that if hikers, get into trouble, it's not a get out of jail free card, but it just means that you have contributed to the cost of rescue. So it's a good thing to do. So we were there in Pinkham Notch, but at the Lafayette trailhead, as fast as Quebecois were getting out of their car, I think they were more than 30% of all the hikers on the trail that day. So we were giving them out the surveys as fast as we could take a filled out survey off the clipboard and put a fresh one on and say, avez-vous 2 minutes pour un sondage? Une page seulement. So that was the key, because usually, you're going to go out and you've got a 4-hour hike ahead of you and you get your pack on. You want to hit the trail, but because it only takes 2 minutes and it's 1 page, I think we only had 1 person that really, ready to hit the trail, didn't want to fill it out, but everybody else did. And surprisingly, they were happy to do it, because the very act of having them do a survey, which was not a lot of work, is a very welcoming activity.
Well,
I mean, they were
in French.
In French. So it was, obviously we had gone to a little bit of work. It wasn't a lot of work for them to fill it out. And so it was really good PR for the state. It essentially says, we value you coming here, and we want to make sure you have a safe time and a good time. And have you shared have they looked the survey?
So they have all translated it into English, and then they all read so for homework they were supposed to have read them all, right? You got the service. Most of you wrote a little thing about it. So yeah, they read all the surveys that you gave me.
Yeah. So there were certain sections of the survey that were, maybe the way the questions were worded, it was somewhat non-responsive, where you had to rank things. They got confused. They would check things off when it was supposed to be a 1 through 5 answer. And that was a little bit of, the fatigue I really do when I go hiking today and not fill this out. But for the most part, they really enjoyed the survey. And the idea is, how can we be more welcoming in New Hampshire? The name of our group is Bienvenue au New Hampshire. So how can we be more welcoming? So if you come just one weekend a year, maybe you'll think of coming 2. If you come 3 weekends a year, how about 4? So to get people to come more often, spend more money, be one of us. And I have friends in Quebec, and I said, when you think of New Hampshire, what do you think of? He said, first, I think of the mountains. Second, I think it's a place I have to drive through to get to the ocean. And then third, there are some communities there that I would like to explore and understand the culture a little bit more. He said there's a richness in the community. So I think once you get people to that level of experience in New Hampshire, where they're, coming and, maybe going to a play, or they've got 2 or 3 favorite restaurants, that's the kind of thing that'll get them coming back more often. And in Tuckerman Ravine, some of the people, almost everybody, if they were chatty, they would be chatty in English, they would kind of humor me. But they essentially said, we love your mountains, and we don't think you can screw them up. So we're going to keep coming back. So, but they did appreciate, especially at Pinkham Notch, they said, your sustainability ethic is something, we really value. And that reflects AMC and the Forest Service, that they protect the resources, they protect the trails, they protect the water. So, people that hike value all of those things. So, are there questions? And the flip side of the, the hiking thing is just a segment that I particularly like and am trying to understand. One of our members in the group is Benoit Lamontagne, and he was born in Quebec, and his job is to try to bring Canadian companies to set up factories in New Hampshire. And at one point, Bienvenue, we were thinking, okay, we'll do the business recruitment side, and then we'll do tourism. But the common theme was welcoming, and the guy who works with Beano for attracting Canadian companies, he said it's all the same thing. If they come to New Hampshire and they feel welcome, they're going to say, okay, then they'll get into, there's a building in Berlin we can move into, or the roads are good, or the broadband is adequate. Then they'll get into the other things, but it's somewhat, even though, they might make decisions on dollars and cents and labor supply and that kind of thing. It's how they feel. And so, I think the essence of our work is to help them feel like, feel welcome. And when you're on the trail, just the critical thing is if you just greet somebody in French, you put a smile on their face. It's instant feedback. And then if you get into it, comment ça va? And you go as far as your French will allow. You guys could chat about everything for extended periods, whereas I get about 3 sentences into a conversation and then they know I'm a little shaky. But that smile is, it's unexpected for them to hear French and to be greeted in French. But I don't have that great an ear for languages, so I was in a supermarket once in North Conway, and I hear somebody with a funny accent, and I said, "Oh, bonjour." And they looked at me and said, "Bonjour." And then they said, we're from Israel. Right? And I've also had people from the Netherlands that I said bonjour to. But I did have this other experience at the Shaw's in Littleton, where I was in there with my friend Mary Lou, and we were getting groceries, and there was a guy there bagging groceries, and he said, "Do you speak French?" And Mary Lou said, "Bonjour." And she said, "But you know, c'est tout mon français." And he said, "Oh," he said, "I'm studying French in high school, and there are so many Quebecois coming through the store that I get to use it, and it's really fun." So on his own, he is doing, you know, what the essence of our work is, and that really comes from Katharine's experience on Main Street, overhearing people speaking French, but a little frustrated that they couldn't understand a menu at a restaurant. So, you know, we're trying to help people take that next step. So,
one thing the students kind of self-elected to study more than just hiking. So this is a big weekend, obviously, for the effort to talk to hikers, but they also have an interest in lodging/culinary experiences. And the third area is in shopping/retail. And so what they are interested in doing is attacking it from the experience basis. What you're as a tourist, you are after experiences. And so how do you really gain insight into what makes that a positive experience? So if there are similar things that you've done in terms of the lodging aspect or the retail aspect, complementary to the hiking insight, that'd be interesting to hear about that.
yeah, we've done a couple of training videos, and they are, one is front desk at a hotel, and the other is in a retail setting. Chutters, yes, Chutters in Littleton. So it's all about the person who is, you know, working and confronted by, you know, French-speaking people coming up to ask for help, and having heard them say something in French and recognized it, and then having the courage to say bonjour. And that is, you know, that's a hard thing to do. I think of the first rounds of training that we have done at the AMC and the Forest Service, I don't think very many people have taken that step to initiate a bonjour. So I think that's our goal, is to get people to.
I just want to add, it actually is beneficial, because I was talking to a girl who works up at Loon and up on the zip tours, and she actually had some Quebecois come through.
Yeah.
And the pamphlet that you guys at least helped make, I believe, they used. It was either you guys or the White Mountain Attractions.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, and White Mountain Attractions has been at this a long, long time, and they certainly understand the value of it. They have translated the whole audio tour of the Mount Washington Scenic Byway into French, and I think they have that in maybe 5 languages. So they have a lot of expertise. This is one of those great ideas that it's still in its infancy. So, you know, hopefully you folks can help us, you know, take it to the next level.
Chuck, I was hoping you could also share a little bit about your experience. So first of all, before Chuck worked for Shaheen, in a previous life he was a business owner in North Conway for a company that makes ski gear. And so you're pretty aware of sort of the whole, how it works, you know, the importance of this in North Conway and in other places. But you've also, now your emphasis is on the North Country. And so sort of, I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the importance of capturing this or enhancing you know, the visitors that we get for the economy, basically, in the North Country. And also maybe you talk about the flags stuff that you've been doing. Yeah.
So one of this is kind of a funny thing that came out of the survey, and we don't really know, but we bought a lot of Quebec flags and Canadian flags, and you know, driving around the North Country, you'll see a lot of hotels and restaurants that'll have a Canadian flag, and for Quebecois, when we went on the hike up to Lafayette, it was really funny because we were going up there to train the hut crew, the AMC hut crew at Greenleaf in French. And so we happened to be walking alongside a school group from Quebec. So the young kids, and they were practicing their English with us, and I was practicing my French with them. But I was trying to illustrate the importance of a flag. But I ended up just saying it in French and kind of acting it out. And I said, so when you see the Canadian flag down here, you go, but if you see the Quebec flag down here, is it? And he said exactly, it's like boom, 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 you know, because that's more meaningful to them. It's a little bit like what's going on in Spain right now.
Right. But it's a little tricky too, right? The flag issue.
Yeah, it's tricky, and actually for the intense hiking crowd, they said, we know we're in another country, we don't need to see our flag. They were kind of dismissive of it, whereas we had always thought that's an important thing to do. So I think as a protocol gesture, if you're having Canadian business people come down, it's good to show, you know, their national flag and the provincial flag, the Quebec flag, but maybe for tourists, it's not that big a thing. So I was kind of surprised by that, since I spent some of our hard-earned money to buy a lot of flags and get restaurants to put them out. And we still have a few places in North Conway that do have the flags out there. But it's, you know, the experience. One of the little things we're working on right now is a sticker for gas pumps in French, and you know, sometimes, I mean, I have seen people filling up their tank and having a hard time understanding the instructions on there. I've also had the experience standing behind a woman using the credit card machine at Hannaford and having difficulty, and it said, instead of saying authorizing, it said processing. And in terms of credit cards, it's the same thing, except she said, oh, no, processing. To them, that means, you know, it's the police intervention in your life. And she thought, you know, it's like it was a signal that she was doing something illegal on the screen. And, you know, it would be a good little feedback item. In terms of what we're doing, we copied a lot of what Vermont does, especially Burlington. You know, we have some stickers that go on the door that say Bienvenue Quebecois. And what else have we done? But Burlington has gone to the extent of having French classes for their Main Street business people, so they can really be conversational in their French and not just, you know, the pleasantries. But, you know, we feel if we could get even 10% of our frontline service workers in tourism to do the pleasantries, that'll be a major goal. So, and it is economically beneficial. I used to sell my product to France, but they also speak French. Who would have thought? And it was, we sold to 3 of the largest retailers, outdoor products retailers, and when we were there in April, you know, what used to be 5 stores is now 20 stores. Au Vieux Camper, do you know them? And they're all over the place. But at one point, we shipped all our product. We didn't put it in poly bags, and and they were opening up the shipment over there, and they were really just, you know, they said, oh, no poly bags. And our sales reps had to quickly say, this is a green ethic from the United States. You know, what do you do with those poly bags? You throw them away. We do not create trash for you. And then they said, oh, wow, that's a good idea. We wish we thought of that. So in commerce, you have to be pretty quick with your responses. The other thing I learned about language over there is at a bar, and somebody made an order, and then everybody laughed. And I said, you know, if you can't understand a joke, you have to have it explained to you. I said, what did they say? And the guy ordered deux Saint-Michel, so it's 2 Saint-Michel beers, but he said it more like deux Saint-Michel, and the person said, that's a lot of Michels. Okay, you get that, right? Okay, good. I had to have it explained. So. Anyway, anything else? Or are you folks going to be with us? Are these, who's going to be with us at the trailhead? Anybody from?
Lindsay, and then another student, Joe, who's not here.
Yep.
Right now. Yep.
It is a lot of fun to do this, because you know you can get into conversations, and people really do like filling out the survey. So it's and you'll get the new New Hampshire T-shirt. No big trouble. So
You are being taped, and so there are actually 5 classes looking at this. So
oh, good.
but they're also going on, so students have classes, and so they're all going to see this. If we can get it uploaded, is that something we can do?
By Thursday.
By Thursday?
Yep.
Excellent.
We're going to probably have a siren test, by the way, in about a minute. Just give you a big siren, just so you know. Okay. Or not. Sorry.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point out there will be I'd say a crew of about 8 or 10 of us.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. It is well worth it. When I went on that, or after one day working at the trailhead, I did end up going up for a hike, and one of the people I'd spoken with at the bottom, I sort of caught up to them early on in the trail, and he thanked me for speaking French. He says, that was very nice, by the way. So people do appreciate it, and it's you know, anytime you can have good relations with your neighbor to the north, and you know, I think historically 30% of people in New Hampshire, 40% have some, you know, French Canadian heritage. So it's really important. Okay. Any more questions? Thanks.